Hare Krishna, Jai. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm just at my mum's house at the moment. I just arrived about five minutes ago. I
Okay.
come down to help her with a few things. She's
Okay, that's fine.
got catchphrase, celebrity catchphrase on the TV here.
Okay.
So I'm just I'll just wait for people to join in, and then
Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
another room.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Thank you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Archana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
I won't be able to stay so long. I've just arrived at my mum's. So let's continue with the prayer and we'll start the reading. Go ahead, Jai.
Krishna, 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 hey.
Archana.
Sorry, I'm still setting up. Krishna, 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 hey.
Krishna, 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 Rakshamam.
Krishna, 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 Pahimam.
Rama Raghav, Rama Raghav, Rama Raghav, Rakshamam.
Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. My dear Lord, I know that Lord Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, is your person. You are also a devotee of Lord Krishna, and he is always ready to help his devotee. Even if you think you are not rendering any devotional service to the Lord, still you are surrendered to him. The Lord is the protector of the surrendered soul. Moreover, I know that Lord Krishna is the ideal personality of Vedic culture. He is always in favor of Brahminical culture and is very kind to the qualified Brahmins. You are the most fortunate person because you have as your friend the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna is the only shelter for personalities like you because you are fully surrendered unto him. You are saintly, learned, and fully in control of your senses. Under the circumstances, Lord Krishna is your only shelter. Please, therefore, go to him. I'm sure that he will immediately understand your impoverished position. You are a householder. Therefore, without money, you are in distress. But as soon as he understands your position, he will certainly give you abundant riches so that you can live very comfortably. Lord Krishna is now the king of the Bhoja, Vrishni, and Andhaka dynasties. And I've heard that he never leaves his capital city, Dwarka. He's living there without outside engagements. He's so kind and liberal that he immediately gives everything, even his personal self, to any person who surrenders unto him. Since he is prepared to give himself personally to his devotee, there's nothing wonderful in giving some material riches, of course. He does not give much material wealth to his devotees if the devotee is not very much fixed. But I think that in your case, he knows perfectly well how much you are fixed in devotional service. Therefore, he will not hesitate to award you some material benefits for the bare necessities of life.
That's a very nice statement by Sudama's wife. And she's very realized. She's a very realized soul. And it's very nice that it's a very balanced understanding she has. Very good. Go on in, Archana.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I don't know where we are.
In this way, the wife of the Brahmin, it's about 6
And,
paragraphs down.
No, is it chapter 80? 80.
It's yeah, Sudama, meeting of Sudama and Krishna.
Meeting with Lord Krishna with Sudama.
Yeah.
Brahmana.
It's about 6 paragraphs down. That was a long paragraph there. And in this way, the wife of the Brahmin again and again requested in great humility
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
that he go to Lord Krishna. The Brahmin thought that there was no need to ask any material benefits from Lord Krishna, but he was induced by the repeated requests of his wife. And moreover, he thought, if I go there, I shall be able to see the Lord personally. That will be the great opportunity, even if I don't ask anything from him. When he decided to go to Krishna, he asked his wife if she had anything in the home that he could offer to Krishna, because he must take some presentation for his friend. The wife immediately collected 4 palmfuls of chipped rice from her neighborhood friends and tied it in a small cloth like a handkerchief and gave it to her husband to present to Krishna. Without waiting any longer, the Brahmana took the presentation and proceeded toward Dwarka to see his lord. He was absorbed in thought within his he was absorbed in the thought of how he would be able to see Lord Krishna. He had no thought within his heart other than Lord Krishna. It was, of course, very difficult to reach the palaces of the kings of the Yadu dynasty, but Brahmanas were allowed to visit. When the Brahmin friend of Lord Krishna, Sudama, went there, he, along with other Brahmins, had to pass through 3 military encampments. In each camp, there were very big gates, and he also had to pass through them. After the gate and the camps, there were 16,000 big palaces, the residential quarters of the 16,000 queens of Krishna. The Brahmins entered in one palace, which was very gorgeously decorated. When he entered this beautiful palace, he felt that he was swimming in the ocean of transcendental pleasure. He felt himself constantly diving and surfacing in that transcendental ocean. Go ahead, Archana. Turn it off, yeah.
At the time, Lord Krishna was sitting on the bedseat of Queen Rukmini. Even from considerable distance, he could see the Brahmana coming to his home, and he could recognize him as his friend. Lord Krishna immediately left his seat and came forward to receive his Brahmana friend, and upon reaching him, embracing the Brahmana with his 2 arms. Lord Krishna is the reservoir of transcendental pleasure, yet he himself felt great pleasure upon embracing poor Brahmana because he was meeting his very dear friend. Lord Krishna had him seated on his own bedstead, and personally all kind of fruits and drink to offer him, as is proper in receiving a worshipable guest. Lord Krishna is the supreme pure, but because he was playing the role of an ordinary human being, he immediately washed the Brahmana's feet and for his own purification sprinkled the water onto his head. After this, the Lord smeared the body of the Brahmana with different kind of scent bulbs, such as sandalwood, aguru, and saffron. He immediately burned several kind of scented incense, and as usual, offered him arati with burning lamps. After those offering him an adequate welcome, and after Brahmana had taken food and drink, Lord Krishna said, "My dear friend, it is a great fortune that you have come here."
What a welcome. What a welcome. Amazing. Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, Prabhu. The Brahmana, being very poor, was not dressed nicely. His clothing was torn and dirty, and his body was very lean and thin. He appeared not very clean, and because of his weak body, his bones were distinctly visible. The goddess of fortune, Rukmini Devi, personally began to fan him with the Mara fan. But the other women in the palace were astonished at Lord Krishna's behavior in receiving the Brahmana in that way. They were surprised to see how eager Lord Krishna was to welcome this particular Brahmana. They wondered how Lord Krishna could personally receive a Brahmana who was poor, not very neat or clean, and poorly dressed. But at the same time, they could realize that the Brahmana was not an ordinary living being. Hare Krishna. They knew that he must have performed great pious activities. Otherwise, why was Lord Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, taking care of him so much? They were still more surprised to see that the Brahmana was seated on the bedstead of Lord Krishna. They were especially surprised to see that Lord Krishna had embraced him exactly as he embraced his elder brother, Balaramji. Because Lord Krishna used to embrace only Rukmini or Balarama and no one else,
You want to carry on?
I want to carry on, but I just want to wait for proper.
Let's carry on.
Okay. After the Brahmana had been received nicely and seated on Lord Krishna's own cushioned bed, he and Krishna took each other's hands and began to talk about their early life. When they had both lived under the protection of the Gurukula or boarding school, Lord Krishna said, "My dear Brahmana friend, you are a most intelligent personality and you know very well the principles of religious life. I believe that after you finished your education at the house of our teacher, and after you sufficiently remunerated him, you must have gone back to your home and accepted a suitable wife. I know very well that from the beginning you were not at all attached to the materialistic way of life, nor did you desire to be very opulent materially, and therefore you are indeed in need of money. In this material world, persons who are not attached to material opulence are very rarely found. Such unattached persons haven't the least desire to accumulate wealth and prosperity for sense gratification. But sometimes they are found to collect money just to exhibit the exemplary life of a householder. They show how, by proper distribution of wealth, one can become an ideal householder and at the same time a great devotee. Hare Krishna. Such ideal householders are to be considered followers of my footsteps. I hope, my dear Brahmana friend, that you remember all those days of our school life when you and I were living together at the boarding school. Actually, whatever knowledge you and I received in life was accumulated in our student life. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. This is a nice, Krishna's meeting Sudama after a long time. And he's remembering now that, we were actually in school together in Avanti, which is Ujjain, where their Gurukul was. And he's remembering the times they had together. And I can remember also back in 1982, when we were just about to open a new temple in Leicester on Belgrave Road. At that time, it was underneath one of the sari shops. It was a basement, one of the sari shops. I think he was a Lakhani as well, if I remember. He was a member of the Lohana community, and he allowed us to have the whole basement of the shop to use as a temple. And to open it, we did a play, and in the play, I was Lord Krishna in the play, believe it or not. This lump of ignorance was dressed up as Lord Krishna with the wig and all the gear and blue face. And devotee called Shruti Dharma, he played the part of Sudama. And then it was sung, the story was sung on a guitar by a devotee called Giriraj, who had composed the Leela of Sudama and Krishna together into a into a kind of poetic song that he sang, and it went on for about 15 minutes. The play. So yeah, it just reminded me of that. Actually, it was really nice. So go ahead, Jai Shri Krishna Prabhu.
If a man is sufficiently educated in student life, under the guidance of a proper teacher, his life becomes successful in the future. He can very easily cross over the ocean of nescience and is not subject to the influence of the illusory energy. My dear friend, everyone should consider his father to be his first teacher, because by the mercy of one's father, one gets this forte. The Father is therefore the natural spiritual master. Our next spiritual master is he who initiates us into transcendental knowledge, and he is to be worshipped as much as I am. The spiritual master may be more than one. The spiritual master who instructs the disciple about spiritual matters is called the Siksha Guru. The spiritual master who initiates the disciple is called the Diksha Guru. Both of them are my representatives. There may be many spiritual masters who instruct, but the initiator spiritual master is one. A human being who takes advantage of these spiritual masters and receiving proper knowledge from them crosses the ocean of material existence is to be understood as having properly utilized his human form of life. He has practical knowledge that the ultimate interest of life, which is to be gained only in this human form, is to achieve spiritual perfection and thus be transferred back home, back to Godhead.
That's very nice. And I remember the in that little play we did, that this statement here about Diksha Guru, Siksha Guru, that was done in two verses. So it was condensed. That's one of the nice things about singing. When you do poetry or you sing a song, you can condense a lot into a very small amount through an eloquent speech, and that's the value of actually singing the story. That's why many bards and many Magadhas and Vidyadharas, they would sing Leelas, and they would be done in a very quicker, faster format. And it was also very entertaining and quite moving. Yeah, it's really nice. I'll go on then, Archana.
My dear friend, I am Paramatma, the super soul present in everyone's heart. And it is my direct order that human society follow the principle of Varna and Asrama. As I have stated in the Bhagavad Gita, human society should be divided into 4 Varnas according to quality and excellence. Similarly, everyone should divide his life into 4 parts. One should utilize the first part of life and become a bona fide student, receiving adequate knowledge and keeping oneself in the vow of brahmacharya, so that one may completely devote his life for the service of the spiritual master without indulging in sense gratification. A brahmachari is meant to lead a life to austerities and penance. The householder is meant to live a regulated life of sense gratification, but no one should remain a householder for the 3rd stage of life. In that stage, one has to return to the austerities and penance formally practiced in brahmachari life, and thus relieves himself of the attachment to the household life. After being relieved of his attachment to the materialistic way of life, one may accept the order of sannyasa.
Yeah, that's a really nice system, Varnashram, the 4 ashrams, because once you've undergone training as a brahmachari or brahmacharini, that training is so ingrained and so has such an effect on the consciousness that it's very easy to revert back to it later in life. So that the value of brahmachari training is, even if it's only for like 5 years or 10 years, brahmachari training, it's really, really invaluable to go through that. Okay, go ahead, Alex Prabhu.
Krishna. As the super soul of the living entities, I sit in everyone's heart and observe everyone's activity in every stage and order of life. Regardless of which stage one is in, when I see that one is engaged in seriously and sincerely in discharging the duties ordered by the spiritual master, and is thus dedicating his life to the service of the spiritual master, that person becomes most dear to me. As far as the life of a brahmacharya is concerned, if one can continue the life of brahmachari under the direction of a spiritual master, that is extremely good. But if in brahmachari life one feels sex impulses, he should take leave of his spiritual master, satisfying him according to the Guru's desire. According to the Vedic system, a gift is offered to the spiritual master, which is called a Guru Dakshina. Then the disciple should take to a household life and accept a wife
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. Yeah. The after you've gone through your training, then you give Guru Dakshina to the Guru. In ISKCON, what we do is when we take initiation, we offer Guru Dakshina at the initiation. But traditionally, it's done after you've gone through your training. But in ISKCON, sadly, in ISKCON, because especially early days, most of the devotees that would take initiation, after about 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, they were gone. They'd gone back down the pub or back to the donut bar. And because, you know, a lot of people took initiation, but they didn't know what they were getting into. And they didn't realize there were 4 regulative principles and strict vows and Mangalarti, and you know, it's a very strict path. So a lot of people gave up the path quite quickly. So in ISKCON, the Guru Dakshina is offered first. So at least the Guru will receive some Dakshina before the devotee may leave the ashram. And my Guru Maharaj, Jayapataka Swami, he told me that there was one Guru in Bengal. There are many, but he met one Guru in Bengal, and he was giving Diksha to people. And that was his job. His form of work was that he would go around villages and give people Diksha, and they would give him Dakshina. So then he was not really giving much spiritual knowledge, and he was a professional guru. So he was making a lot of money doing this. So then Jayapataka Swami said, do you know that when you take the Dakshina from someone, the money you're taking from Diksha, do you know you're taking their karma as well? When you take that Dakshina, you're taking that person's karma. And, you know, you've got a lot of heavy sins on your head now. So the Guru didn't like that very much. And he was very upset when he heard this. So Jayapataka Maharaj told me this personally. So, okay, according to the Vedic system, Jai. No, these instructions.
These instructions given by Lord Krishna while talking with his friend, the learned Brahman, are very good for the guidance of human society. A system of human civilization that does not promote varna and ashrams is nothing but a polished animal society. Indulgence in sex life by a man or woman living single is never acceptable in human society. A man should strictly follow the principles of brahmachari life, or with the permission of the spiritual master, should get married. Single life with illicit sex is animal life, for the animals have no such institution as marriage. May I continue?
Archana?
Modern society does not aim at fulfilling the mission of human life, which is to go back home, back to Godhead. To fulfill this mission, the system of varna and asrama must be followed. When the system is followed rigidly and consciously, it fulfills this mission. But when followed indirectly, without the guidance of superior authority, it simply creates a disturbing condition in human society, and there is no peace and prosperity.
Yeah, well, you can see that anyway. The result of that. People think, like when I was at school or when I was working just after school, my early years, my late teens, the whole goal of life, at work was how many girls you can go out with, and how many people you can have sex life with. And that was like the goal. That was like if you could get one or two girls a week going out there and having some, interaction with them, you were considered a hero. You was like you was a hero. You was like, you were Mr. Big. And this is the mudas and the donkeys and asses, camels, asses, donkeys, fools. This is they don't see in the future that their life of this type of sinful life, there's only one end to it, and it's called senility and a dark tunnel at the end of their life. They end up in an old people's home, barely able to walk, and they're just barely able to think because they've wasted their energy in their youth. So they're not heroes at all. All right, go ahead then, Alex Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Krishna continued to talk with his Brahmana friend. My dear friend, I think you remembered our activities during the days when we were living as students. You may remember that once we went to collect fuel from the forest on the order of Guru's wife. While collecting the dried wood, we entered a dense forest and by chance became lost. There was an unexpected dust storm, and then clouds and lightning in the sky, and an explosive sound of thunder. Then sunset came, and we were lost in the dark jungle. After this, there was severe rainfall. The whole ground was overflooded with water, and we could not trace out the way to return to our Guru's ashram. You may remember that heavy rainfall. It was not actually rainfall, but a sort of devastation. On account of the dust storm and the heavy rain, we began to feel greatly pained, and in whichever direction we turned, we were bewildered. In that distressed condition, we took each other's hand and tried to find our way out. We passed the whole night in that way, and early in the morning, when our absence became known to our Gurudeva, he sent his other disciples to search us out. He also came with them, and when they reached us in the jungle, they found us very much distressed. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this type of tapa is recommended. You undergo tapasya for the Guru's pleasure. Prabhupada liked it very much when devotees would go out preaching Harinam. In the early days, Harinam was a big tapasya because the police kept stopping us and arresting us. So we ended up, in the police station or in jail overnight. So many times I was arrested. And then you're distributing books, and then the police are stopping again. They're arresting. I was arrested 3 times. I was put in the jail overnight for distributing books. So this type of austerity, it pleases the Guru very much. So Archana, I recommend that you get arrested as quickly as possible. And Alex, you should get arrested there in Switzerland and thrown in jail for at least a month.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best.
But this type of austerity for the Guru, for the pleasure of the Guru, is burns up millions and billions of sins for countless lifetimes. Okay, go ahead, Jai Shri Krishna Prabhu.
With great compassion, our Gurudev said, My dear boys, it is very wonderful that you have suffered so much trouble for me. Everyone likes to take care of his body as the first consideration, but you are so good and faithful to your guru that without caring for bodily comfort, you have taken so much trouble for me. I'm glad to see the bona fide students like you will undergo any kind of trouble for the satisfaction of the spiritual master. This is the way for a bona fide disciple to become free from his debt to the spiritual master. It is the duty of the disciple to dedicate his life to the service of the spiritual master. My dear best of the twice born, I am greatly pleased by your acts, and I bless you. May all your desires and ambitions be fulfilled. May the understanding of the Vedas, which you have learned from me, always continue to remain within your memory, so that at every moment you can remember the teachings of the Vedas and quote their instructions without difficulty. Thus, you will never be disappointed in this life or the next.
Well, this is a beautiful blessing from the Guru to that your understanding of the Vedas is clear. Well, the Vedas is vast, but we understand the Vedas are put into three sections: the Karma Kandya, the Jnana Kandya, and then the Upasana Kandya. So, if one understands the purport of Karma Kandya, which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 21, that's quite clear what that's about. Ascending to heaven for heavenly pleasure and living on earth with wealth, good education, beauty, and strength. This is the result of Karma Kandya. And then Jnana Kandya, of course, they're Jnani, they're super intelligent people. They have great knowledge of Brahman, and they have knowledge of this world, and they're often Brahmin Pandits. And you see them, and you see also educated people like Einstein and others, atheistic scientists as well. They're given great David Attenborough, Brian Cox, these professors are on TV, have their own programs. They're paid a lot of money for giving information. You have to have a lot of intelligence to produce that, even if it's speculative. So, yeah, it's a great blessing, actually, to be able to remember. Okay, Archana, go ahead.
Lord Krishna continued, my dear friend, you may remember that many such incidents occurred while we were in the ashrama of our spiritual master. Both of us can realize that without the blessing of the spiritual master, no one can be happy. By the mercy of spiritual master and by receiving his blessings, one can achieve peace and prosperity and be able to fulfill the mission of human life.
Alex.
On hearing this, the learned Brahmana replied, my dear Krishna, I'm sorry, Prabhu. I've got someone trying to come into the door.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Okay, you are, he said, the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Spiritual Master of everyone. And since I was fortunate enough to live with you in the house of our Guru, I think I have nothing more to do in the matter of prescribed Vedic duties. My dear Lord, the Vedic hymns, ritualistic ceremonies, religious activities, and all other necessities for the perfection of human life, including economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are all derived from one source, your Supreme Personality, your Supreme Personality. All the different processes of life are ultimately meant for understanding your personality. In other words, they are the different parts of your transcendental form, and yet you played the role of a student and lived with us in the house of the Guru. This means that you adopted all these pastimes for your pleasure only. Otherwise, there was no need for your playing the role of a human being. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 80th chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Lord Krishna and Sudama Vipra, or Sudama Brahmin. So we got the next chapter coming up. We'll start that next week. Let's ask if we got any anything that you noticed here, Jai, that was interesting for you in that little section where Krishna and Sudama were meeting and remembering what they'd done as children. And of course, Sudama's wife, she gave him very good advice. And one thing I noticed personally was when Sudama's wife said, look, you have to take something for Krishna. And instead of going into the pantry, or as we would do, go into the fridge to get something, she had to go next door. She had to go next door and beg something because they were so poor, they didn't even have any food. So that was quite striking, I noticed. What do you think? Anything you can pick up there?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard and read this story quite a few times, but this Krishna book goes in quite a lot of detail before the meeting, and just getting up to the climax of how she actually gets Sudama to go and meet Krishna, because he was reluctant, he wasn't bothered about not having food or nothing. He just was living in his world of his own where all he had was Krishna. So, you know, and then obviously there's little snippets of how they were living together in Gurukul. So obviously I think the next chapter will give it more details. But yeah, and the story that they all caught in this storm, you know,
Yeah.
they all stayed together, which was, you know, quite a sort of top as they call it.
Yes,
So
tapa.
yeah.
That's
So
very
quite
nice. That's really nice. We've come to the end of the chapter. We're starting 81. We'll start that next week. We're just going over what we've read. Archana, did you pick up on it? Some really good points there you made. That's really good.
Yeah, as the Prabhuji
What,
said, I also
okay,
heard the
Alex,
story.
we'll see you next week, Prabhu. Haribol.
Haribol. Haribol.
Yes, Archana.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I also heard the story, and it was in my study time when I was a student. I heard it. So I just like to mention about the Krishna humbleness of that poor Brahmana, that he never forgot the friendship. They spent time together, even after a long time, and also treated him as like not a poor man, but as like his friend, or yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that he didn't treat him like he's a poor man. He's treating him like he's just his best friend from his childhood, and he never forget what they did together. And yeah, in next paragraph it will be more interesting. What's the blessings like?
Yeah, well, it's a very it's the whole story is famous, as you know, you've heard it. It's one of those folklore stories where the grandma will tell the children, and it's one of those stories that it's famous, very famous in India, especially in Gujarat. It's because after all, this Dwarka was in Gujarat itself, in Saurashtra. And Krishna became in his Vasudev feature, Krishna is technically Gujarati because his father, Vasudev, was from Sarasen. So his father was Gujarati, and technically Krishna's Gujarati Mache. So that's why the Gujaratis are often very naturally Krishna conscious. That's what happened to me when I joined the temple. And after a year of traveling and preaching on the streets, and they put me on the Indian Community Affairs program. It used to be called ICAP under a Kandari Prabhu. And they said, well, you've got some other skills that we could use for this program. I'm a musician. I could speak some other languages. So they said, why don't we put you on here. So very quickly I picked up Gujarati, Tame Kemcho, Susamachache, Manjama, Bofainche, Sambrone, all this sort of thing. So I picked up all these things in Hindi and then Bengali. And then I worked with the Indian community for, it must have been solidly for, I would say about 4 years, 5 years, I'd say. And I learned a lot from the Indian community. And I noticed that they were naturally, the Gujaratis, always said this nice greeting, Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna, yeah.
What a name to have, what a diction name to have for a Gujarati.
Oh,
Jai
yeah.
Shri Krishna Das. Wow, what a name. Very, very good. And of course, my experience of the Gujarati is that they're been very good to me, very friendly, helped me a lot. Charles Patel, who owns or used to own 5-star, they were called 5-star tobacco and newspaper shops selling cigarettes and chocolates and things. He personally paid the debt off for me when I joined the temple because I was owing money for some musical equipment which I gave to the temple, but he paid that debt off himself. So I'm very indebted to the Patel community for that, to give me the chance to join the temple. Otherwise, I couldn't join because I had this. I had money to pay off, and I could only do that on a monthly basis. It was expensive equipment, guitars. I had very expensive guitars. They were professional ones. They weren't the usual like a copy of a guitar. They were the real top quality instruments and amplifications. So it was quite a lot of money, but the Patel community paid that off for me so I could join the temple. So I'm indebted to the Patels and the Samjis and the Lakanis. So there you go. So I'll let it go and we'll see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class.
Thank you.
Thank
Haribol.
you. Haribol. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.